In this module, you'll find a tremendous amount of information and success-building exercises that will assist with your healing of your emotional and physical bodies. Admitting that we have some healing to do should not be embarrassing. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You just may need a little help unwinding your programming and rewinding it with a new perspective. Healing is a natural and necessary piece for us to experience while on our path of ascension. Hello and welcome to Module 4, the 12 Pillars of Self-Healing. I'm your host, Deb Getz. When we admit to ourselves and others that we're experiencing some downtimes while clearing out the past, the old paradigm of shame and seeing a psychologist or spiritual healer sheds its sting. Our forward-moving actions are something that we can pat ourselves on the back for because we are accelerating our experiences of living as our God selves, thereby giving others permission to do the same. We cannot fully experience the fullness of ascension, raising our consciousness through being more light into the body and mind, while darkness, pain, and ancestral patterns remain hidden beneath our consciousness and therefore in our physical bodies. We will begin with a channeling from the divine. Others have told you that you were wrong. Yet, since your childhood, you've known something different. You were not accepted for your truth, yet shunned by others, never believing that what you knew as your truth was exactly that, your truth. So you shut down. You squelched your beliefs, inner knowings, yourself, and most of all, your light. You are here because your time has come. Your time has arrived to uncover, recover that which was buried beneath the stories you told yourself about yourself. We believe in you. We are the ones who gave you the promptings of your youth to walk this journey on this earth as you. The you that no one else can be, nor ever could be. Only you can live this glorious life from your place of knowingness and truth. Hide your truth no longer under the bushel basket of fear of condemnation, for without you, this world is incomplete. If you negate yourself, you rob the universe of the part of the symphony that only you can play. The symphony is incomplete, out of tune, and out of time, when the piece that is you is skewed or missing. When the world told you untruths, you sadly believed them and took them as your own. You believed others before you believed yourself. Yet you hear the symphony that plays in the corners of your mind and deep within your heart, beckoning you to come join in. You long to be part of it, but because your esteem was broken, you hid. We need you to play your musical instrument. We need your voice to sing your part in the beautiful masterpiece of life. Join the symphony of life with us, won't you? Answer the calling of your soul. Play your instrument as only you can play it. Playing small serves you not. Playing small serves us not. You are the missing piece. Yet you've known this not up until now. Your uniqueness has set you apart to break the bonds and barriers of life as the world has previously shown you. You are a way shower. A beacon of light are you to the world. Have you ever assembled a jigsaw puzzle and found you were missing a piece? That final piece to complete it? You became frustrated because it wasn't coming together as the finished picture. This is how we feel without the fullness of your presence in the puzzle of life. Realize that you are the missing piece. We are all searching for you, with you. The puzzle of humanity is frustrated because you, are not showing up to complete the universal puzzle. There's a rich, deep, undiscovered world that lies within you. It's sacred. It's rich. It's up to you to excavate the rubble of the old and discover the inner castle of freedom, the freedom to be you. You've been through enough pain. You've been through enough struggle. Let go of it. Release the grasp on what you thought brought you love and peace. Even after all the struggle, love remains elusive. Stop the hamster wheel, then decide to get off. Take a look deep into the mysterious caverns of your heart that holds the key to the secret door of infinite peace, ease, and grace. These beautiful, compassionate, and encouraging words from the divine bring us to the first pillar of self-healing, which is awareness. Awareness of how we have hidden our uniqueness and brilliant light from others. What are you hiding from? Maybe you've experienced loss and betrayal, or perhaps you've been abandoned and can no longer be present in your relationships because of it. Throughout my life, I have experienced a lot of abandonment from people whom I loved. Because of it, I isolated myself from the beauty that intimate relationships can bring. I could not risk being vulnerable with anyone, much less myself, for fear of being deserted and neglected yet again. I could not find the courage to look at my pain, for fear that if I did, it would be too painful, and I wouldn't be able to dig my way out of the dark and damp cave. My abandonment experiences began when I was only 1 year old. My mother gave birth to 3 children in only 2.5 years. I was the third. Because of the emotional and physical stress this caused her, my mother became very ill and was ordered by her doctor to be institutionalized for 2 months to recover. During her absence, my brother, sister, and I were sent to our aunt's house in Milwaukee. Our aunt, my mother's sister, was a very devout, religious woman, but she was married to a man who was a narcissist and a tyrant. They divorced years later, but while I was just 14 months old, under my aunt's care, and unbeknownst to anyone else, her husband molested me. While alone in my crib, this man would come to me, remove my diaper and clothing, and molest me. This experience is not easy for me to talk about because it requires me to be extremely vulnerable. For it was only a few years ago that the memory of this experience at my aunt's house arose from my subconscious mind. Because of this revelation, I was able to trace back through my life and gain deep understanding of some of my personal relationships that had failed and the ways I gave away my power, especially to men and those in authority. Creating a gaping hole in my heart, this experience set me on a continuous, unsuccessful search for someone to make me feel safe inside. My experience as a 14-month-old was revealed to me in a perfect timing. It was the right moment for me to deal with it and set myself free from years of hiding and feeling unsafe. It was a challenging and painful experience to recall, especially so many years later. Still, I sought help to work through the trauma of having been a vulnerable, innocent, 14-month-old little girl without her mother's presence to protect and defend her. While tracing back through my life, another realization from that experience that surfaced was the understanding of an underlying, unexplainable resentment that I held toward my mother while growing up. My abandoned little 14-month-old self was mad at her mother for leaving her unprotected with a monster like my uncle. I'm very grateful for having had the revelation and the understanding it brought me, and have since moved forward with much healthier personal relationships. Allow my experience to prove that the hard work required of us now to heal is not only necessary, but also very life-changing, and we're not alone in the process. If you feel like I did, I'll now provide you with some steps to take to help your neglected and abandoned inner child recover. We don't like to hear this. However, the truth is, our outer world is a reflection of ourselves. So, if you have experienced being ignored and abandoned, in what ways have you abandoned yourself? In what ways have you neglected yourself and your own inner wisdom? Who have you allowed to walk all over your feelings without defense? Who have you, out of fear of being neglected, allowed to negate and diminish you? If possible, stop the recording and perform the following exercise. You will find the exercise in your handouts, so get a pen and follow along. After performing the exercises, restart the recording. Step 1. Make a list of your experiences of having been ignored, neglected, opposed, and abandoned. For instance, what others have said to you, what they think of you, or how they treated you. Think of ways you could have handled the situation differently, and then journal about it. For instance, I could have stated my opinion without fear. Next time, I will. Or, who are they to have that opinion about me? No one gets to tell me that I'm less than anyone or anything. Then vow to stand by your statement now and in the future. The second pillar of self-healing is unearthing the relics. As you traverse the caverns of your heart, you will discover unlikely relics that, like mine, have been preserved beneath the soil of your subconscious mind, things you prefer not to find nor examine. Those lost, broken artifacts, when uncovered, must be placed under the magnifying glass of truth. Roman philosopher Seneca in the 1st century once wrote, "You are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." When we think about it, he was correct. For we live our lives in and through our mind, our thoughts, perceptions, and fears. Yet, our relics want and need to be found, dusted off, and examined. In fear, we resist the process. These frightened pieces of you are precious aspects of the shadowy self within your heart, longing for the light of day. They have stories to tell. In their stories are clues to rich discovery. So be courageous. For once uncovered, the stories, though frightening, are actually the secret passageway out of pain and struggle and into love. Much like the biblical story of David and Goliath, or Atreyu in the never-ending story, we must face the evil wolf, looking it bold-facedly in the eyes, and take its strength from it back to ourselves. It is only through facing the darkness that our innocence is revealed. The third pillar of our self-healing journey is surrender. The ego fears losing itself in the arms of love. We keep our pain neatly bottled inside our hearts because we identify with it. We've become comfortable with it. Well, what if we could take the cap off the bottle and allow the fizz to escape? What would be left? You would discover nothing but love. Yet the ego wrestles with the higher self for identity and control. It's not light against dark, for the only true war of light against dark is within our own egos, within our own imagination. In reality, everything is light. If God created all things, and all things that she created was good, then where's the darkness? And what is there to fear? It's the ego's selfishness and grandiose narcissism that argues for its weaknesses. Yet the heart is malleable and soft. It is love. It must take the ego by the hand, much like a parent trains a child with discipline. The ego, until its final surrender to the gentle love of the sacred presence, must be first taught, then molded, and coaxed into loving. The ego clamps onto its weaknesses and imperfections as though it will benefit from it, like a child who refuses to share its toys, clinging to what is theirs and theirs alone, losing itself to the vulnerability of the heart. It clings to its identity, fighting with everything it's got, fearing exposure as the fraud that it is. Yet the ego has worn too many masks and won too many battles to continue with its selfish ways. Exposure crushes the ego. It tries to hide. It hides beneath a facade of perfection, when in reality, its stance of perfectionism only masks its weaknesses. It's time for the walls of the ego's castle to come crumbling down. It's time to wave the white flag of surrender. The war is over by default. The ego is exhausted. It's out of ammunition. It lays down its weapons of guilt and shame. This is where true healing begins, in surrender. I like to think of our healing process as descending, resurrection, and then ascension. The fourth pillar of self-healing is descending. To rise, we must first fall, or start from the bottom up. We descend into our bodies, into our hearts, being courageous enough to peer into our pain, excavate and examine it, and raise it into our consciousness to heal. It's a process of allowing the ego to take a back seat. Now, if you're like me, you've lived most of your life as a normal person. The status quo didn't seem like too bad a place to be. Attending school, getting a good job, putting money in the bank, possibly getting married and raising children, and or climbing the corporate ladder. But then also, like me, you may have begun to feel that something wasn't right, or something was missing, or feeling that you didn't belong here on earth. You began to explore the sciences, metaphysics, various religions, astrology, and the like. Your search deepened as the years went by, and now you know why. You were searching for truth, the truth of who you are, who God is, and why you're here on earth. Now, as we learned in an earlier module, we are in the throes of ascension, which is the raising of our consciousness, allowing it and our physical bodies to be transformed into light. We can help ourselves in doing this by allowing ourselves to finally feel everything that has been simmering beneath the surface of our personalities. You know, those things that cause addictions, anger, jealousy, self-loathing, overspending, and of course, the pain of abuse that we've allowed ourselves to experience along the way. I like to call this process peeling the onion, feeling the pain. Our emotional health can be boiled down into two simple terms: fear and love. When we live in fear, it is impossible to feel our soul or the love of our sacred presence. So let's peel the onion. Like an unscratchable itch, pain gnaws at our hearts. It can be sometimes so deep that we close our heart's door. If we're courageous enough to open the door, we find not the scary monster that we imagined, but a broken child who needs our help. And to help our child, we must give it that which we most crave: acknowledgement, acceptance, and love. The best way to do this is to have a conversation with the child, letting it know that you hear them and accept their feelings. then love them for being courageous enough to tell you their story. To guide you through this process, you will find the inner child healing meditation included in this module. So, what about our romantic relationships? Many folks struggle with them. Healing our emotional selves can only enhance our personal relationships. Do you find yourself alone, living without a partner to love and share your life with? Many of us do. However, living without love, feeling your broken heart, feeling alone, being depressed about it, feeling that love will never arrive for you only keeps it at bay. Negativity, self-pity, and depression only keeps love away. So, how can the universe bring us what we want when we continue telling it that it's not here? We tell ourselves stories. We tell ourselves that we're unlovable, that real love never shows up for us, for we've tried and failed so many times. We feel defeated and broken because of it. It's time to change that. It's time to stand up inside, realize our value and worth, and do some work on ourselves. Get down to business and put our loneliness on a shelf. For after all, it's just a part of the human condition. We need to do our work, making our lives what we want them to be, with or without a romantic love relationship. Guess what will happen then? It's been said many, many times that when we're living our own lives, happy, content, and busy, someone to love shows up. So make a plan to do that. This is your life. Make it what you want it to be, with or without someone, while also excavating your hidden relics. It's not them being in your life that makes your life what you want it to be. You are the powerful one, the director of your life. This is important. What will you do with your life? Only you can decide that. The fifth pillar of self-healing is loving ourselves through the grief of loss. Most of us have experienced loss and the emotional pain that it often brings. Yet every loss holds within it a unique opportunity to gain personal strength. Being left seemingly alone through death or separation is one of the most gut-wrenching, painful experiences one can go through. We ask ourselves and God many questions, such as, why? Why did they leave? Was I not worth them sticking around? And again, why? We always come back to why. While attempting to recover from loss and separation, it's difficult to find answers on our own. We're in a dark pit, and in darkness lay no answers, at least none that soothe our sorrow. The answers to our questions remain shrouded. Recovery from loss is very difficult and painful. To help, I'd like you to ask yourself a few questions about your pain. What does your pain say about you? Was there something that was unresolved with the person that left? Was there something that you still needed from them? Or were they the one you leaned on for everything in your life? Whatever it was, know the person who left through physical death, their soul lives on. You can communicate with them. You sometimes feel them near you, don't you? If not, ask them to make themselves known to you. For if everything truly is energy, including the soul, and energy communicates, you have that ability to do that by using your imagination. In trying to overcome loss, we often forget that our sacred presence is also known as the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is said to be the feminine aspect of God, the tender, gentle, receptive, loving aspect of God. So ask the Holy Spirit, who is the comforter, for consolation, or ask her to send you something or someone to bring you peace. They say that time heals all wounds, Yet in the case of loss, I'm not sure the wound ever heals. It depends on our perspective. However, if we're willing, we are allowed a dispensation of grace to look back over the years and see how much we've gained in the way of personal inner strength and growth that came as a result of having had the other person in our life. Having done this, our hearts can then become filled with compassion. We develop a new tenderness in our hearts that could not have been forged in any other way or any other path than the one we traversed. Something that helped me in the past that you might find helpful is when you're alone, go into a meditative state or just cuddle up under the sheets in your bed. Cry your eyes out and ask for strength, grace, and peace. A heartfelt prayer is never ignored. Then imagine the Holy Spirit coming to you, embracing you while you weep, stroking your hair, warming your body and your spine with its love and grace. Feel it telling you that the person who left you in the physical realm was on his or her own journey, and it was their time to go home. Ask the Holy Spirit to unite your souls for a moment to feel them with you again. Love is never lost, for it cannot be. The sixth pillar of self-healing is worthiness. Self-worth is the most vital piece for us to explore on our healing path. I've given this word a lot of thought and prayer throughout my years, and the most recent assessment of unworthiness lies in the deep caverns of the soul. The soul was with the divine before its arrival here. It left that place where it knew connection and oneness. As stated in the previous module, it knew who it was in a place of love, purity, and perfection. So the soul now yearns to return. It's homesick. It's lonely. A part of it, though it understands its purpose here, regrets leaving its heavenly home. The shame and guilt the soul, and therefore the human, feels results in unworthiness and stem from the misperception that it is separate from the divine rather than a piece of it. This is what ascension is all about, the remembrance of our oneness. Once recalled, the facade of imperfection, of not being enough, measuring up, being confused about our mission on earth, dissipate. Just the fact that we breathe, just the fact that we exist, is proof of our worthiness. Here are some words of worthiness from the divine. In your unworthiness, you do not realize that you can do no more than what you have done and are currently doing. You cannot earn my love, my focus, or my favor. For all have been given through grace. You are innocent, free of guilt and shame. Can you see this? Release the need for perfection. You are already perfect in my eyes, for this is how I created you. You are a chosen one among the many. You are also among the many whose hearts are pure enough to see. In truth, you are here before my temple of grace, not as a meager, lowly soul, yet as one who has realized the truth of the intensity of my love for you on a planet of density. You are here to make a difference to a lost and lonely humanity. You are here, both intentionally and purposefully, to experience emotion, simply to experience, gain wisdom from your experiences, and then assist your brothers and sisters on earth. Emotion sharpens the sword of righteousness, and in this righteousness, you can learn compassion for yourself and others. It is this compassion that is your tool to now go forth and help my world. The seventh pillar of self-healing after descending is resurrection. Resurrection is raising our consciousness from the third dimension into the fourth and higher dimensions. In the third dimension, we're unaware of all this truth that we've been talking about. The third dimension is living entirely from the ego. Not that those in 3D are bad people. There are plenty of good people who remain asleep. Yet as we move into 4D, we begin to see and know the truth about how things work and our value and worth as beings of light. I will now provide you with 10 of the most significant telltale signs that you're in resurrection phase of ascension. 1, you're gaining a deeper love and compassion for others and yourself. 2, you're moving out of a belief in conspiracy theories and good against evil. 3, your intuition is growing stronger and you experience synchronicity. 4, you notice an increase in your sensitivity. 5, you're less interested in negativity and gossip. 6, time is starting to feel more fluid to you. 7, you experience a greater sense of peace. 8, you feel restless and/or have a desire to change location. 9, you experience an increased interest in your soul's mission. And 10, you yearn to find your tribe or soul family. Another piece of resurrection, especially if you're an empath, is carrying the weight of the sorrows of the world. As a human being, you are part of the collective in a world of seeming hatred, greed, and selfishness. It's only natural that you carry part of the collective burden. What can we do about this? The most potent way is to pray for humanity. By praying, you detach yourself from the energies of the world, allowing yourself more peace. To assist your resurrection, dispel darkness by refusing to partake in fear and ways of 3D living. Trust that the love of the divine is ever present and strong. The angelic armies enter and instill love and courage in us to band together during this time when we need each other. Trusting in and aligning with the state of grace that's always available will take us far in remaining hopeful and positive. Along with healing the emotional body comes the 8th pillar, that of healing the physical body. Our emotions and our physical body are not separate. Our bodies are our consciousness in form. Let me say that again. Our bodies are our consciousness in form. The subconscious mind holds our past and present state. The subconscious mind lives in the cells of our bodies, taking the lead from our emotions, both positive and negative. Sometimes the body has a difficult time healing. It's not always the soul's journey for the body to heal spontaneously, even with the assistance of a good energy healer, physical therapist, or others. What I have come to learn about this is getting as deep as possible into the body and its emotions is vital to recovery. As mentioned in a previous module, however, the tissue of the body, such as tumors, are sometimes a large part of an individual's sojourn, and no matter how hard a healer or doctor try to assist, the soul needs to learn what it needs to learn before it can heal. On the other hand, and another reason it's so difficult for some to heal their physical body is because that which the person is experiencing somehow serves them. The individual is unwilling to give up the benefit that their illness brings them. My own mother was a great example. She suffered from many physical issues during her lifetime. She had not only emphysema, but also hay fever, food allergies, spinal stenosis, polymyalgia. The list went on. Consistently under doctor's care and spending weeks each year in the hospital, we, my siblings and I, remarked at how much Mom loved being in the hospital. She would return after a stay reveling with wonder about how all of her nurses treated her. She even wrote them all thank you notes after she returned, telling them how much she appreciated their attention and care. Now, Mom was kind and sweet, well loved by her friends and family, and would do anything for anyone. She once told me to never say no to anyone, especially clergy. She didn't have the know-how to create boundaries for herself and consistently gave her power away to most anybody, especially to my dad. So, you see, my mother subconsciously found great benefit in being sick and remaining sick. She could go to the hospital to be cared for and waited on to catch a break from her life of serving my dad and others. This was, however, subconscious manipulation on her part. I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but rather through compassion. I know she must have felt trapped and knew no other way to express herself, getting the attention she so craved other than through illness. My mom left the earth in January of 2015 after a 10-day hospital stay with pneumonia. Her lungs were her great representation of her body's message to her. Her self-esteem and value were so low, she felt unworthy even to breathe the air. And I believe that she was grieving the love and respect for herself that remained elusive to her. Even after years of doctors' care, they were unable to heal her. Her preference was to use her illness to meet the requirements of love and care while serving everyone but herself. A fine example of how the emotions play a determining part in our physical health is an individual who experiences cancer in the body. We often hear of people who go into a state of remission after cancer treatment. This is always excellent news. However, we have also heard of the cancerous state returning to their bodies years later. Why is this? Could it be that if disease holds an emotional component, that the person has not dealt with the emotions that were the probable cause of the illness to begin with? Lots to think about. Exploring past lives, our ninth pillar, plays a significant part in our healing. Before we talk about this, it's essential to note that past life issues are almost always the very same energies that we bring into this lifetime. Because many past life issues remain unhealed through lifetimes, they resurface in this lifetime in order to be dealt with. The soul's journey is quite complex. Therefore, we cannot claim to know everything, for our minds think linearly. Yet, understanding that energy in the body, if unhealed, is the same from lifetime to lifetime, it's often not necessary to peer into the past to heal ourselves in the present. Because the mind wants to know, it does sometimes help to dive into a past life or two to help put our puzzle pieces together. But it would be impossible to excavate every single lifetime of an individual. Think about it. Some of us have lived hundreds of lifetimes. It would be a daunting task to undertake and require yet another lifetime to sort through every past lifetime to get to the bottom of deeply ingrained programs. I also want to let you in on a little secret that the divine revealed to me. I'll start by asking you this question. If indeed you are a piece of God, a part of the soup that is God, then could it also be possible that you are and have been all things? I believe that if we really sat down and went into every lifetime from the present into eternity in both directions, we would find that we were also with God when the words, "Let there be light," were commanded. Allow yourself to feel into these statements. Do they resonate with you? If so, you will discover for yourself the vastness of you. We can also carry the energies of trauma in our ancestors. Here is yet another anomaly. If we consider reincarnation and the possibility of re-entering this world along with the same soul family as in the past, then we are a part of our own ancestral line. And as we help heal our ancestors, we heal ourselves on many levels. So how do we inherit the traumas of our ancestors? If we look at epigenetics and the subconscious mind, the answer becomes clear. Epigenetics is the study of how behaviors and environment change and affect the way genes behave. In the case of our ancestors, their traumas and successes altered their genes, which then were passed on to us. Their information became stored in the gene pool and therefore in the subconscious mind and physical body. Attempting to heal all of this can feel a bit overwhelming, yet we weren't meant to barrage our mind with all of it at once. But we can be courageous enough to take one step at a time and with some compassionate assistance, systematically release the things that have kept us bound. So, how do we heal ourselves? One of the best ways to heal is to take a look at the 10th pillar of self-healing, which is releasing the weight of baggage from our past that we've been dragging behind us or carrying on our shoulders. Some of us are so weighed down by our past that we're frozen in the present, frozen by the fear of rejection, fear of success, fear of not being good enough, fear of fear itself, which all keep us from living fully as ourselves during a lifetime that was given us so freely to live freely. As previously stated, peering deeply into the pain of our past can be frightening, yet ignoring it can only offer future suffering. The keys to liberation from our past is to unload the burdensome baggage, take a look at it, and accept it for what it was and who it involved. Realization, acceptance, self-responsibility, forgiveness, and love will heal your past like the magic wand you've always wanted, acting as a healing balm for your suffering. Your past formed you into the person you are today, with all of the gifts and abilities forged through your experiences and that of your ancestors. Your past is exactly as it should have been, including the joys and sorrows, or it would not have occurred in the way that it did. Your past was perfect. Otherwise, it would have been different for you. Full acceptance of this will go a long way in freeing yourself from the chains of the past. A good example of this is when I, during my awakening process, learned and realized that I was a soul living in a clay body. I learned that before I came to this earth, I made an agreement with myself and others to experience everything that I was to experience during this lifetime. I saw myself as a light being, sitting at a table with the divine, my guides and angels, and all the souls with whom I would share my experiences during life on earth. I knew I wanted to have the experience of remembering who I was. I also knew it would require many helpers to accomplish this task. At the time, I imagined Earth to be a wonderful place where I would get to touch and feel everything with my physical hands. I would be able to smell rain falling from the sky onto lush ground. I was excited to be able to see the glorious creation that Earth was and engage with others in physical form. I would be able to hold a newborn baby, pet a kitten, and swim in the beautiful, calming ocean. And I would have air to breathe through real lungs and a heart that I could feel beating. I couldn't wait to express the love from that heart to everyone that I met. You see, I had so much to look forward to, as did you. I thought living on a planet of duality would be quite exciting. Little did I know at the time of my decision the emotional destruction one could also experience because of not remembering who they are or from whence they came. For some, this may cause feelings of sadness or depression. Though all of us have experienced depression at some point during our lifetime, we don't like talking about it. Yet, depression is something that needs to be addressed in this module, especially if you're currently experiencing it. Depression has many different layers to it and comes in varying degrees, from mild occasional depression to clinically diagnosed depression. Depression causes feelings of sadness and a loss of interest in activities we once enjoyed. It can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems, decreasing our ability to function at work and at home. Possible causes include a combination of biological, physiological, and social sources of stress. Research suggests that factors affect the balance of neurotransmitters, or chemicals in the brain. Yet, when truly understood, depression is the psyche's way of protecting itself. Much like a body entering a comatose state after a physical trauma, it needs to protect itself, so it shuts down in order to recover. The mind performs the same function in depression. It's protecting itself and preparing to heal. Psychologists tell us that mild depression is actually anger turned inward on oneself. So if you find yourself in a state of depression, dig deep and journal about your anger. When you do, you'll find that you are angry most of all at yourself for allowing something to happen that you could possibly have changed or stopped. You may also be angry at yourself for mistakes of the past. Do some forgiveness work, loving yourself back to normal. Depression is nothing to mess with. If you're experiencing continuous depression, I urge you to contact a mental health professional or a well-qualified spiritual counselor to help you find your way back to the light of day. The 11th pillar of self-healing is the experience of soul retrieval. So, what is soul retrieval and why would someone need it? At some point in our lives, people, circumstances, or other uncontrollable forces have hurt us, traumatized us. Our natural response is to forget about it and move on with our lives as quickly as possible. However, moving on without addressing trauma leaves us with a lingering sense of loss, feeling like a part of us is missing. And it is. This is called soul fragmentation and requires soul retrieval to regain stability and a sense of safety. Soul fragmentation is something that can occur to one who has experienced trauma or tragedy. Most of us have, right? And though I don't believe that a soul can truly be lost, ancient shamanic traditions teach that when a soul has a traumatic experience, pieces or parts of the soul are lost or fragmented and left at the scene of the crime, so to speak. I'll give you an example. In the fall of 2017, I was driving to the grocery store, stopped at a red light, waiting to turn left into the store's parking lot, when all of a sudden a car traveling 40 miles an hour behind me hit my vehicle. I didn't see it coming, for as I was being violently shoved out into the intersection, I hit my brakes but sustained whiplash and a concussion, and as a result of this collision, I was an emotional wreck for months afterwards, depressed, scared to drive my car, much less stop at an intersection. I was nervous and shaky and could not snap out of it. I talked with a mental health professional, but even their efforts failed to restore my emotional equilibrium. I was emotionally frozen. Then, while meeting with my counselor one day, I told him that I didn't like thinking about being in my car at the time of the accident. Later that day, I returned home using my consciousness. I energetically entered my vehicle with my imagination and discovered a frightened piece of me over on the passenger side of the vehicle near the front windshield. So I performed soul retrieval for myself, and since that day, I've recovered from those months of depression and anxiety. So how is soul retrieval performed? It's much like any other inner child work that we talked about earlier. We discover the fragmented part of ourself, acknowledge its feelings, accept its expression, and then love them back into wholeness. If you're wondering if you have a lost fragment of your soul, here are 10 signs that indicate soul fragmentation. You will also find them in your handouts. 1. You have difficulty remembering certain parts of your life. 2. You are plagued by nagging, fearful, or anxious feelings. 3. You feel like a part of yourself is missing or having feelings of being ungrounded. 4. You have strong bouts of depression and don't know the cause. 5. You are unsure of your life purpose. 6. You experience long periods of insomnia. 7. You feel mental or physical fatigue without a medical explanation. 8. You feel lost in a world full of people. 9. You have difficulty overcoming troublesome issues in your life. And 10. You feel out of control. If you believe a part of you has been fragmented, seek help in retrieving those beautiful pieces of you that want to return. The 12th pillar of self-healing is recovering from hurtful personal relationships. When we struggle with releasing pain from relationships with others, it is vital to know that any inflicted pain was less about you and more about the other. Resist the habit of looking back at what happened to you in the past. It isn't about the thems in your life. As humans, in our insecurity, we tend to, like innocent children, look outside of ourselves for approval and acceptance, what others think about us, then telling ourselves stories about ourselves based on and through the eyes of the others. Yet, as spirit beings, we turn our eyes inward to our own stories we know to be true. Where else and how else do we learn to love and accept ourselves through this lifetime? Learn to forgive and love the ones who broke you, for they themselves were broken. They could not have treated you any differently because they simply are who they are. You cannot expect to get lemons from squeezing an orange, right? Every soul on earth is doing the best they can with who they are, what they know, and the programs they have running within their subconscious mind and conscious mind. If you view another as being bad or evil, stop. Ask yourself this question. What was it inside of me that lacks the capacity to love them? We all have the ability to love, but not all have the capacity. You have the capacity to love, or you wouldn't be on this journey. However, this doesn't mean that you should stay in any type of abusive relationship. If you are in an abusive relationship, do not hesitate to leave. Then seek help to recover. You should never allow anyone to tell you who you are, what you should think, or how to live your life. You are the light of the world. Other people in your life show up to act as a reflection of you. No one can harm you, really. Emotional pain is a perception. Others show up as a mirror for you to show you how you're expressing or suppressing your divine light. If someone shows up and you're contracting or restricting from being hurt, they're showing you there's a place of healing yet to occur for you to stop identifying with your programs and identify with yourself as the divine being of light. You can then radiate more compassion, more grace, more ease, and more flow in your emotions and your life. To help you work through the 12th pillar and recover from painful relationships, stop the recording now and journal your answers to the following questions, which are also included in your Foundations 2 manual handout. 1. Make a list of all the people in your past and present who have broken you. Include yourself if applicable. 2. What kind of stories have you told yourself about yourself that occurred with the others in the past? For instance, they're right, I'm wrong. 3. Where and how did you allow yourself to be diminished? For instance, I'm not worthy of attention or love. 4. How did you dishonor yourself or let yourself down? For instance, failing to set healthy boundaries. 5. How can you now react and behave differently with the thems in your life from a place of integrity and authenticity? It's time to release the guards who have flanked the doorway of your heart and mind. It's time to resuscitate your strength and transform your interactions with others from timidity and fear into love through the strength that is you. It takes practice, but you can do it. Here are 16 effective ways to heal yourself. 1. Refuse to take anything personally. You're bigger than that. You know that no one can tear at your heart and your emotions because your heart is rooted in strength. 2. Decide to stop worrying and being overconcerned for and about others. Perfect peace belongs to those whose mind and heart are rooted in the complete trust and comfort of the internal presence. Remember the saying, let go and let God? Do that. Number 3, stop the I should from running your life. Living with shoulds means you are being hard on yourself, which robs us of the freedom of self-acceptance. Shoulds represent perfectionism. Give yourself some grace and cut yourself some slack. The world will not fall apart in the absence of your control. Number 4, meditate. It's only through stillness that we recognize our pain and are able to be with it and release it. Our weaknesses and imperfection reside only within our minds. Meditation gives the minds a break from these untruths. The soul is then able to feel and know that which lies within its own heart, allowing it to open to the higher frequencies of light that heal itself and the body. Number 5, cry to release emotions from the body. Crying is a gift given to the physical body to dislodge encapsulated anger, frustration, and stress. Keeping emotions bottled up inside cause many diseases, including heart disease. So use that gift whenever you need it. 6, learn to love yourself. If you struggle with this, say this prayer. God, help me love myself in the way that I am loved by you. Help me to see my innocence and purity. Number 7, talk with others about your healing process. We were given each other for a reason. We were not to be islands in a world full of people. So reach out to someone who knows how to listen with a caring, compassionate heart. 8, seek out and get some good help from a reputable spiritual counselor who can help perform soul retrieval and ancestral healing to excavate your deepest fears and traumas. 9, recognize your fears. Give them a voice. Ask them to tell you how they feel. Then comfort them. Love them. Reminding them that they are safe. There's no harm that can come to them. 10, live in your integrity. This means setting boundaries for yourself. If you're constantly acquiescing to others' opinions and criticisms, you're out of integrity with yourself. Trust yourself, your instincts, and live the life you were meant to live, expressing fully as yourself. By doing this, you'll build trust in this relationship, which leads to healthier relationships with others as well. 11, be authentically you. Get that new hairstyle you've always wanted but were afraid to try. Wear the clothes you've always wanted to wear but felt shy doing so. And speak up. 12, gently release your old friends and or family members whose energy no longer resonates with yours. You're shifting from 3D to 5D. Therefore, changes are necessary. Old toxic relationships fall by the wayside as you rise above the old and into the new vibrations. Make new friends with those who honor your light and theirs. Without realizing it, we may be addicted to technology, is number 13. Our phones, tablets, television, and laptops all soak up way too much of our attention. Determine to set aside at least one day a week when you do not engage technology. Spend the day alone or in nature. Learn to simply feel yourself, your body, your feelings, your inspiration, your breath. Your life will improve dramatically by simply turning off technology for a day or more whenever possible. Number 14, stop identifying with your ego, your past, your experiences, your job, in general, the identity that you have created for yourself. In reality, your ego is an illusion. For if you are a being of light in a clay body, Isn't your ego identity a dream that you created for yourself? To fit in and collaborate with humanity and to exist on Earth? Number 15. There's an ancient text that tells us to become as a child. Think about that. What are the characteristics of a child? A child's carefree, imaginative, playful, trusting, and most of all, innocent. This ancient text provides the secret to attracting into our lives everything that we want, and that also cures any ills. A child's not concerned about their next meal or if the sun will rise in the heavens tomorrow. They trust. Their imagination creates their life. So find ways to be more imaginative, creative, and playful. Number 16, say prayers or affirmations. Some great suggestions are, I am the light of the world. I am the ruler and governor of my internal and exterior world. Or, through the power that I am, I now transmute for myself and my ancestors the origin, cause, and effect of all abuse, betrayal, poverty, and abandonment. I transmute all abusive actions, thoughts, and words, and all negativity into love. And now you know. So go spread your authentic wings and fly the frontier of your newfound freedom, expressing fully and unapologetically as you. This brings us to the end of Module 4. My hope is that you learned and gained much from it. I look forward to seeing you in the next module where we will meet the great Ascended Masters. Don't forget to perform the following exercise. Because our lives are very busy and we often live in our heads, we don't know what we want or need. This exercise will help you get to the heart of the relics that remain bubbling beneath the surface of your life. So download and print out the included self-healing worksheet to help you determine your deepest needs and wants. Do not judge anything that comes up for you. Allow yourself the privilege and honor of expressing your deepest feelings. After printing the document, take your consciousness into your heart, breathing deeply, feeling into what you want and need. Then write your responses under each respective heading. Give yourself as much time as you need to perform this. Remember, breathe and allow. Then at the bottom of the page is space for you to make the list of the action steps that you create for yourself, allowing and giving yourself permission to have the things that you need and want. An example of one of your deepest needs might be having more time to yourself. An example of an action step you might create for needing more time for yourself is, I will set boundaries for myself to give myself the time alone that I need. Or you might choose to set a meditation and prayer time every morning and evening by setting up an altar or a private place just for you. An example of a want you might have is developing deeper friendships with people. An example of an action step you might create for having more friends is, I will find and join a local meetup group to meet people with interests like mine. Or I will join a church group or volunteer to help others in need. Your action steps are productive ways to start living in integrity. Don't take yourself too seriously while performing this exercise. Have fun with it. Over the next few days, weeks, and months, use the plan that you created to put your needs and wants into action. And I'll see you in the next module. From my heart to yours.